Hey guys, what's going on? Tyrauku here. I hope everyone's doing great. So today we got a pretty interesting video, and I hope a lot of people are going to be able to do this if you have this specific champion. So what we're going to be showing is a team that can two-man spiders, so they can duo the spider's den. Now, I typically push heavily for this if you have champions who are able to solo or duo dungeon stages. Definitely try to build them if you can, if you have the gear, of course. Definitely try to build them in order to do that because it really helps with efficiency of your count. So I've done a Minotaur video a while back talking about some champions who could solo Minotaur, being Shield Guard, Bellower. My Venus does it for me. There's a lot of different champions who can solo that area. Now, obviously with the keeps, Minotaur, it's a little bit easier to solo, but you can definitely do one or two champions in things like the Dragon's Lair, Spider's Den, Ice Golems. Fire Knight's a little bit more tricky, but you can do these three fairly easily. And if you can do it, it's definitely worth it. Now, it's not very good for speed runs, definitely. I mean, only using two champions versus several champions, you're not going to get the fastest runs, but you are going to be very efficient with your energy. You're going to be very efficient with leveling up your champions. So you're going to get champion levels, you're going to get good gear, and you're going to get the silver from getting that gear. So definitely, if you have the champions, if you have the spot to actually build those champions to do the solo and duo runs, definitely consider doing that. So today, like I said, Ain Sama reached out saying that he has a team that can duo spiders, which is awesome. Now, Tyrant is a very popular champion who's used in a lot of these duo spider teams, and he can actually solo spiders as well. However, you do need better gear for him, not necessarily as much better stats, but more so the sets that you're going to be using are going to be things like regeneration, immortal gear, and he's going to be very fast, very tanky, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to achieve that as compared to this build where it's using Tyrant, which is a champion you do need to get lucky to get, of course, but he's been around for a long time, so a lot of players may have him. The second champion, however, is not based on RNG. So if you're at the point of the game where you can build the champion with that gear in order to make Tyrant and Archmage actually work, you probably have gone through normal Doom Tower and are able to actually get Archmage from the Doom Tower secret rooms using those fragments or whatever it may be. So Archmage and Tyrant are going to be the two champions we're going to be using to do this Spiders run. And it's actually a very nice run. I tested it out a few times once I got into this account, and I like it a lot. So let's go over some of the stats you need and kind of what you're going to be looking at when you go to build this team, if you can. So hopefully a lot of you who have Tyrant also have Archmage and can start building towards this team. I know we recently had, actually I think we still have the open a legendary from an Ancient Shard and get another legendary for free event going on. So it'd be pretty cool if some of you guys have pulled Tyrant. But as far as his stats that are needed, you need 200 accuracy or more because you need to land the HP burn on the little spiderlings. So you definitely make sure the accuracy is in check, as well as your resistance. The resistance needs to be about 250 plus because you don't want to get a lot of poisons on your Tyrant. If you get a lot of poisons, it's going to cause things to start getting a little bit sloppy. You do have some healing coming from something I'm going to show later on, but you do want to make sure that Tyrant actually survives. And the defense and HP, you want his HP to be lower than Archmage because Archmage is going to be the tank for your team, and you want his defense to be at a good amount to where he stays alive and is tanky. Your whole idea behind Tyrant is make him tanky, and these stats work very well. Now, as far as the speed, you need above 180. 221 is not necessarily required, but typically the faster they are, the better. You just don't want their speeds to be super far apart, and we'll get into that a little bit more in just a few minutes. Now, next, let's look at Archmage's stats, and then we'll go through the masteries and everything like that and break down a little bit more details. Before I show this, don't forget to leave a like on the video, guys. It helps out so much with pushing this out to the algorithm. If you haven't subscribed, definitely consider subscribing to the channel and leave a comment down below. Do you have these champions, and do you think you can have the gear to build these champions to do this? Now, with Archmage, you want him to also be, about 200 plus speed, so he can be a little bit faster than Tyrant. That's perfectly fine. You also want him to be pretty tanky as well. You don't really want him to be targeted by the spiders, but the big spider is going to take a turn, so Archmage does need to survive. Now, we also have maybe put him in Relentless gear, maybe some regeneration, maybe some immortal gear, just to help him stay sustainable and actually survive. Here we have him in Relentless and immortal gear, but ultimately, as long as he's pretty tanky, he should be perfectly fine. Ideally, he's not going to be hit very much at all. Also, you want to make sure that he has 70+% crit rate because he is going to give himself that crit rate buff. And I believe one of his abilities is if he places a crit then he has a chance to place a stun on all the other enemies, which is incredible. The stun or the turn meter reduction, you definitely want that on the spiderlings, because if the spiderlings are stunned, they're not attacking, which is a perfect situation for this run, because you want to keep as much damage off of everybody as possible. Now, when it comes to his stats, though, you want to make sure his HP is above Tyrant's, because you don't want him to be targeted by the spiderlings, or at least make him be targeted as little as possible. So make sure you avoid a big speed difference between the champions, because you don't want Tyrant to have too many buffs, so that if he has too many buffs, then the spiderlings may switch to Archmage and attack him, and Archmage is just not going to be as tanky and as survivable as Tyrant is. Also, make sure you keep in mind that you're using the HP burn strategy, okay? So you don't want a lot of crit damage on these champions, because Archmage hits pretty hard as it is. Tyrant also, he can hit pretty hard as it is, but you need the spiderlings to stay alive. If they die, then you have no HP burns burning the big spiderling, and just a bad situation overall. So keep the crit damage down. Just try to make them as low of damage dealing as possible. So definitely keep that in mind when you're building these champions. Extra healing for Archmage, like I said with the Immortal gear, the more healing you can get, the better chances of him surviving. Extra Immortal pieces, maybe even regeneration pieces if you have them, but this set seems to work out pretty well. Now, one thing to note on Tyrant is you can put Immortal gear on him, but you keep in mind, if you have Immortal gear on him, he has a chance of getting more HP than Archmage if Archmage takes more damage, and that could screw up your run. So keep in mind, if you do put Immortal gear on Tyrant, make sure his HP stays below Archmage, and make sure that nothing gets wonky there. If it does start to mess up in your run, definitely consider taking Tyrant out of the Immortal gear, out of the extra healing stuff, and get him to a spot where he's not getting that extra healing, and possibly putting him over Archmage Hellmut's HP. Now, going into Tyrant and taking a look at his masteries, let's go ahead and go in here and see what we need and what is going to really help you out with getting through this run. So specific masteries for Tyrant, you definitely want to make sure that you don't necessarily take War Master. War Master is going to add more damage. So Ain Sama mentioned that he did have War Master for a little while on Tyrant, but it was causing him to kill the waves a little too quickly, and it just wasn't great for him. And overall, not a great thing to take. So when you're building Tyrant's masteries, a few things to keep in mind. Oppressor, very good mastery, increases his turn meter fill rate by 2.5% for each active debuff. This allows you to run him a little bit slower and still get that fast speed boost. Master Hexer, very good as well. Extends the turns of burns, but the spiders are probably going to be dead before you get through 3 turns of burns anyways, but this is always good to have, especially on the big spider boss. Definitely never a bad thing to have. Now, Tyrant does cycle through his abilities very quickly, but Oppressor, very important master to have. Overall, these masteries, very solid for your Tyrant. Now, when it comes to Archmage Hellmut, a few very important masteries are your Oppressor. He's also going to apply the stuns to everybody, so this is going to help boost that and get him to go faster, get the turn meter to fill even quicker. You also make sure he has Harvest Despair. 60% chance of placing Leech for 1 turn when placing Stun, Sleep, Fear, True Fear, Freeze. So Archmage is going to be stunning the spiderlings. He'll be placing the Leech, which will help Tyrant get some heals whenever he does his AoE attack, and it'll help Archmage get some good heals as well to keep him up higher HP than Tyrant. So definitely very, very important. Also, Master Hexer. This doesn't extend the duration of the stun, but it should extend the duration of the Leech debuff when he places that. So definitely those 3 masteries are very, very important to take when you're building Archmage. Let's jump in here and give a little showcase of how this actually works. Now, I like this team quite a bit. Very accessible. Like I mentioned, I think I mentioned this in this video. I've done a few attempts at this recording, so maybe I'm getting this mixed up. But either way, Archmage is very good, but you can always use other champions. Like you can use Nethril, you can use Miscreated Monster, and there's probably even more options that you can use with Tyrant, because Tyrant's such an amazing champion. But this run specifically is a fairly accessible run in my opinion. I mean, because everybody has Archmage, right? Or at least most people do, because he's in the normal Doom Tower, not super difficult to get. You don't have to open up shards to get him or anything like that. So he's more or less guaranteed. And Tyrant is the only, I guess, variable here that you may or may not have, depending on how lucky your account has been. So as you can see, we had a little bit of a glitch there. Archmage, for some reason, likes to glitch out on a lot of dungeons. I tried to get him to do Minotaur solo, and he would run to the boss, and the camera would stay panned back somewhere else. I don't know what the deal with that is, but let me know, guys. Have you noticed the same thing? Like all of your dungeon runs with Archmage, or at least the ones that I've noticed, always has this bug where the camera gets stuck at a weird spot after he uses his zap. I don't know what's going on here, guys, but it's kind of weird. We can't really see what's going on here back here with their HP and stuff. Hopefully this run doesn't end up looking a little bit weird. I tested it a few times and there was no losses. However, Archmage somehow did get less HP. So this run may not be 100%. Apparently, obviously, Archmage is down, but Tyrant may be able to clutch this out because, like I said, he can solo this boss. Now he has ran out of healing, so it's gonna be pretty close. If we can get a few HP burn procs, are we gonna do it? Are we gonna make it? And we made it, guys, just with a sliver of health left. So let's go ahead and try this one more time. Minute 33. It's definitely not a bad time, guys. If you're going through here, trying to level up some champions, leave it on overnight. A minute 33, not a bad time whatsoever. So definitely not a speed run. I mean, you're not doing 10 seconds or 30 seconds or anything like that, but it's a pretty quick run and it's very consistent. The other runs I did literally had way more health left. Like there was no issue whatsoever in the previous runs. This run, I guess something happened where Archmage got lower HP than Tyrant, and I wish we would have known, but we couldn't because the camera keeps getting stuck right here, so I can't see what's going on back here. But something happened where Archmage was lower HP than Tyrant, and obviously that messed it up. Maybe the leech didn't land like it should have, and things just got complicated. But other than that, the runs that I've done, it's been perfectly fine, not an issue. And even if it was to even if Archmage was to die towards the end, perfectly fine. Tyrant can definitely survive a few extra turns. Maybe that gives you more reason to consider putting something like immortal gear on him, just a piece or so. Just make sure Archmage stays above Tyrant's HP. Because as you can see, his HP is getting low. And if Tyrant does get some big heals, he would surpass Archmage's health or have a higher chance of doing that. Now, unfortunately, the camera keeps getting stuck here, which is pretty annoying because we can't really see what's going on back there as far as the debuffs that are getting placed, but not a big deal. We'll deal with it, okay? We can't do nothing else about it, so might as well just deal with what's going on here. So once we get some leech placed, his AoE ability should heal himself up pretty well. So we'll see right here, we got leech on 1, 2, 3, 4 spiderlings. He uses his AoE ability and he's topped off, okay? So I think what happened was maybe he used that, got fully topped off, Archmage wasn't topped off, and then one of the spiderlings started attacking Archmage instead. But if the leech stays up, perfectly fine. So he's fully healed, all good to go. Now, Tyrant this time we won, so it doesn't even matter. But the leech, definitely very important. If you don't have that leech mastery on Archmage, definitely something you need to get. Master Despair, Harvest Despair and Master Hexer are both masteries you definitely want to consider getting. And now, Master Hexer, you're probably going to kill the spiderlings before that really serves much of a purpose, to be honest. But this is huge, so definitely get this. I mean, 1 turns to 2 turns, very good. Maybe you can get some benefit out of it. But either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that if you have Tyrant, you can achieve these stat requirements and go ahead and build out your champions to do a duo spider farm, which is incredible. Good silver, good gear, good experience, and overall very efficient when you can take 2 champions like this into an area and get all of those different benefits, guys. So thank you all very much for watching this video. Thank you again to Ain Sama for letting me jump into your account. Very much appreciated. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in the next video.